Meeting to order. It's the first time.
How did I feel?
All right. All right, so we'll start. Oh, I gotta do that, huh? We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Daniela, you want to lead us off?
Sure.
Right there. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the next item on the agenda is citizens' comments. Start in the Zoom audience if there are any citizens' comments.
Somebody else.
I don't see any comments. Any comments from the room?
Steve Herbert, Wilsonville Road. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. All right. No other citizens' comments. We're going to move on to the educational update.
So welcome back, everyone. This is our first day back. Bill and I have been immersed in budget all day. We did have a couple of glitches today, first time back. Otherwise, attendance was much better than before the break, where we had about 160 students out, a lot of illness. Today's numbers look much better, but I do hear that the flu is running rampant, so we're going to have to keep that all in mind when we start to look at our attendance rate. When you get your data sheets tomorrow, you'll see that attendance was significantly impacted in December. Otherwise, everything is about budget. I will let you all know today I sent out a notice to the staff that I have frozen the FY26 budget. As you know, we usually do that sometime in October because of the late adoption of the budget and the processing of POs late this year. We held it open until the end of the first half of the school year. However, today the notification came that tomorrow we won't be processing any unnecessary spending. It'll be between Bill and I. If someone needs something, and I don't mean the typical stuff like, copy paper and things that we need for consumables, but if they haven't ordered something or, for supplies or curriculum resources, I question, now those things should have been ordered. And we just have to hold the line on the budget because on Monday night, I'll be talking to you about, and I don't want to waste time on that tonight, but regarding a supplemental allocation to cover special ed costs for the current year that we're in. So that's basically my update.
Okay. All right. 2026, 2027 budget presentation.
Nope,
Oh.
starting with me.
Starting with
Starting with me. So, unlike every other year, we usually present a final number at this date to you, the superintendent's final number. This budget is definitely a work in progress. I have a memo in front of you because the question always comes up when we start to look at the budget sheets. And inevitably somebody will ask, Melinda, what did you cut on your first, pass at the budget? What did you take out? What are the kids not getting? What personnel have you recommended for reduction? This year, we took 2 swipes at the budget because we knew before the break the number that we're going to eventually land on is going to be a significant increase. I will say that as far as personnel reductions, I was going to give you that information for the 21st meeting. That's a longer discussion because that's going to be a decision you're going to have to make whether or not you want to put those reductions forward. As you know, last year we cut 7 or 8 positions. There's very little staffing to reduce. I've come up with some suggestions, none of them good, but I want you to take a look at it and have a discussion about it before we do that. The school budgets, I've gone through the budget book twice. I have reduced their individual budgets, but not by a significant amount. To be quite frank, what they've asked for is just their general operating supplies and materials. You know, a teacher might have asked for 3 cameras, okay, I gave her 2. But, you know, as I'm going through the budget, that number did not yield a big reduction at all. And then this, as far as technology, the only thing we pulled back on is that maybe next year we would not give the 9th graders going up to the high school brand new laptops, because we have acquired some used laptops that Heather thinks that she can retrofit and implement those for the high school. Remember, the high school uses laptops versus K-8 using the Chromebooks. So that money came out. And then the biggest number that we reduced is in the memo ahead of you. These were some asks from the school, but I chose to take them out because you'll see when Bill starts to go through the budget that we're landing on a number that's significantly higher than I've ever presented to you before. Tonight, Bill really wants to present the budget in a way so that the new members of the board have an understanding of how to read the sheets and how to look at object code definitions and those kinds of things. So he's going to start with that. And then we're going to get into some of the rationale or explanation of the changes in the budget. So that's kind of where we're at. But the number that you see before you in the increase is not the final number that I will present to you. I want to have a discussion around those personnel recommendations on the 21st before I put forward a final number. Mr.
Right.
Stegler.
Thank you. Okay, so for the veterans on the board, this package will look very familiar. But for our new folks, a quick summary on how we attack the budget. Believe it or not, this work starts in early November 4th this year, to be specific. We send out this year, actually, we try to enhance the budget process every year. Just trying to get more and more efficient, because as you can imagine, this thing's an elephant and you kind of got to eat it one bite at a time. And we just try to improve it. This year, Tina Nolan has joined the team upon Eileen Deary's retirement. And the effort that Tina and I embarked on this year was to make it all electronic. So all the templates that went out, well, there used to be a lot of paper flying around. You have a lot of version control issues with that. So we went 100% to electronic templates this time around. Kudos to Tina for her diligence on that effort, and also kudos to all the principals and right down to the teachers, everyone who had to fill out those templates. It went very smoothly. There's always, some hiccups. Folks in academia love their Google Sheets. They want to send you a Google Sheet, and darn it, I'm an Excel guy, so back it goes until we get Excel. There's a little bit of that, but it actually went very well, and allowed us to really take some time out of that process at the beginning, and I believe improve the quality of sort of the mechanics of putting the budget together. So just a little plug for the hard work that the team did there. So what you see in front of you is really, there's 2 sections to this. The first page is a very high level summary that by department gives you a quick look at the total numbers and a real snapshot in the explanation of changes as to what's driving those. The second page through the last page gives you the object look. So a little more granular on, there's a section in the back pages that really kind of goes into detail on every single one of the departments, and you can see at the account level what those explanations were. The second packet, the definition of the objects. Once again, our vets will remember this, but this defines the object level. So if you're looking at pages 2, the second page on this package, you see org and object. The object is the second part of that number. It's sort of like an account number. And this provides the detail you need when you look at a line and say, what the heck's in there? You can go to this sheet, they're numerical in order, and you can see a quick blurb on what is captured by that object. Some of these are relatively generic, and others go into some very specific detail on the account. For example, when we talk about how much we're paying for per gallon of fuel, gasoline, diesel, and fuel oil, that information is in there just to give you a feeling for how these, what each account entails, and in some instances how the budget numbers were actually calculated and pulled together. So it probably would make sense to just walk through the cover page to give everybody a higher level feeling of how we got where we are. So in total, this draft in capital letters budget is $23.7 million. That's up from $21.8 million in 2026. That's a $1.9 million or 8.9% increase. So keep in mind, it was very early stages of this, after 2 rounds of cuts with Melinda. Now I'll go through each of the departments. A lot of the drivers you'll recognize from past years. High school up 4.1%. It's contractual salaries, and one of our big drivers that we talk about every year is our expected increase on health insurance. Talking to our brokers, once again, they're expecting 10%, or at least they're starting at 10%. I know you'll recall that in past years, that generally drifts down. One year, it went down to almost nothing when they started at 10%. Other years, it's landed somewhere between 6 and 8. I'm hopeful we see the same trend, but at this moment, I would much rather start the process with the conservative estimate that the brokers have. And hopefully we'll catch some good news later on in the budget process if that ends up at 6 or whatever it may be. Because you might imagine, you guys know, the health insurance number is a big number. It's a big driver of our budget. So just keep in mind that 10%'s in there and you'll see it all over the place. Big drivers really for all 3 of the schools, high school, middle, and elementary, salaries and health insurance. One thing we did see in the elementary school, in instances where we've had to go out and hire new teachers, the market conditions for teacher hires are driving those salaries up to higher steps. The teachers are in demand and we're competing in the marketplace just like every other district. Melinda's hinted more than once that the tone around those negotiations and the conduct of other school districts has gotten more and more aggressive in just the last couple of years. And unfortunately, that's driving salaries higher. Pupil services, Dr. Jones's area. Once again, expecting higher outplacement tuition and contracted services. East Con hit us with a significant rate increase. I believe it was 8%, this year, which was unfortunate. And a speech pathologist was brought on board. So that all contributed to that 12.7% increase. In health services, you're looking at a $1,700 increase. Nurse Grauer really held the line on her budget. That is completely salaries. She didn't move on any of her other budget lines. District-wide, one of the big drivers here, we had talked in previous Board of Ed meetings about the Board of Education budget taking back 100% of cafeteria health insurance. So that's a big driver of, you look at that 14% increase and say, what the heck's going on there? That's a big piece of that increase. In addition, we had higher expected workers' comp and liability insurance rates, higher anticipated severance for fiscal 27 with some key retirements, and higher VOAG tuition, which is an estimate. You never know how many kids are going to go to Killingly VOAG. However, from what I understand, there are a handful that are at least applying and taking a look there. So we did increase that tuition in anticipation of if those kids decide to go. As the budget process goes on, if we get more visibility to that, we might have the ability to drop that a little bit. But once again, trying to be conservative at the beginning of the process. In plant, Mr. Birch, facility transition costs capture both the portion of Bill's salary for next year when he will be here, as well as the full year for his replacement. With our new HVAC maintenance, it will come with a rather significant HVAC maintenance contract agreement. That's in there. Electricity, we're assuming a 10% increase because similar to last year, unfortunately, it's tough to get visibility around where that's going. So we use 10% to be careful. Health insurance affects us here. Partially offset by fuel savings. I'm particularly proud of this little stat. I wish it would have had even more impact, but for, I believe, the 4th year in a row, a combination of what was Amy at the time, Bill Birch and myself, we really keep an eye on the futures contracts on diesel, fuel oil, and gasoline. So we were able to buy down on all 3 categories, and we're for the 4th year in a row, we're paying a lower per gallon cost for all 3 types of fuel. So that it helps out a little bit. Transportation. Our contract with DATCO is for a 5% increase. But wait a minute, Bill, we're only up 4.3. It's because we're offset by bus route reductions and the lower fuel costs that we just talked about. High school athletics. Higher liability insurance rates. This is the insurance that covers athletes if they're hurt during a game. And a little bit of repairs and maintenance. I mean, that's $523, but last year I tried to squeak by without putting an explanation for a small dollar amount. You guys definitely made it clear you didn't like that. So I even explained $500. Technology. Replacement of network switches. Please don't ask me what those are, but Heather assures me that that's the way to say it. Salary increases for a few of the techs, partially offset by elimination of 2 software programs that the district has historically purchased. Heather kind of took a look at as she does every year, but she took a harder look even this year at all of the software packages that we use across the district. And Lexia and Naviance were removed.
We went through those, and those 2 Naviance we weren't using, and Lexia is a reading program, and the good news is there's more direct teaching rather than screen teaching with that intervention. So we're pleased about that, actually.
The next department is middle school athletics, up $4,000, primarily driven by higher liability insurance rates, same as high school athletics above. Curriculum, a budget that's down. That's nice to see. And it's really Melinda taking a look at the level at which she had budgeted certain supplies in the curriculum department and came up with a reduction of almost $14,000 there. She's even cutting her own budget. And finally, ESY and summer. Contractual salaries that move just like any other teacher and para salaries, as well as higher transportation costs.
And that primarily is because we're part of the Horizons program that's funded entirely by the Rectory School program. Next year we'll have 3 grade levels or 4 grade levels are participating, but our only cost to that whole program is provide the transportation in the summer for the 6 weeks for the students that participate. And we shared the cost the year before. Putnam gave us a ride. This year we picked up Putnam kids. We try to barter back and forth, but we did end up seeing an increase this year because of that. But 6 weeks of a full day program, can't beat it.
So as I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of the same challenges that we faced in past budgets, with a couple of new wrinkles like the HVAC service agreement and things like that.
Yeah, the fee for that is over 108,000.
Yeah, 108,000.
Yeah. Jess?
Justin, sorry.
Yep, Alex. The contractual salaries increases, do we know on a percentage basis around what that percentage increase was?
You know, it would make sense that we have that, but because everybody moves based on step, I tend not to think of it in total because it varies quite a bit. There are certain step increases that are really not all that significant at all, and then there are others that are quite a bit of a jump. I could
Depending on the
get
year it
total.
fell, yeah, it's 3% or a little bit over 3%.
I guess kind of where I'm trying to break this down, Bill, is, let's say for the high school, it's a 4.1% overall increase, where you're saying 10% of that 4.1% is in the health insurance.
Not necessarily, it all depends. The 10% increase on the health insurance is tough because there's a rate component, but there's also a mixed component. So if you just take one school, for example, if you had 20 teachers in the high school last year who took health insurance, but maybe someone, a teacher with family plan retired, and we replaced them with a younger teacher at a lower salary who maybe is still on their parents' health insurance for a couple of years. Then also you have a mix element that goes in, so it's not as easy as looking at last year's health insurance number and applying 10% to it, because there's a lot. This happens at the town too. We have a lot of back and forth at the town side. It goes in the other direction because a lot of folks are kind of climbing the ladder where they were single and now they're moving to family. So you might get caught. You might have the same people, but they've moved on in their life, and all of a sudden they've gone from single, where the cost to the district or the town might be, let's say, around $15,000 a year, to family, which is closer to $35,000, and that's the district or the town's portion. So that's 80% of the total premium. Which, by the way, just in case there's anybody on the audience that's wondering, we do not budget for the full premium. We budget for the portion that the district pays.
Right.
So that's net of it's roughly 18 to 20%, depending on the union, that employees contribute.
Yeah, I appreciate the explanation. Where I'm trying to get at is, of the 4.1%.
Yep.
What part of that is salary? What part of that
Sure.
is anticipated insurances, right?
Right.
Because although we are obligated to both, if it's 1% overall is the salary and 3.1% is the insurance, that's going to be something to explain.
Let me clarify something there too. It's particularly challenging to boil down the flux explanation for in the high school's case, a $3 million budget to a 5-inch long cell in Excel. So I would characterize these, and maybe I should label it as such, as the primary drivers. Because there are a lot of puts and takes in there of folks like, for example, let's say we bought history books last year. Well, we might not buy history, so we had 10 grand of history books in the budget. This is just an example, I'm making it up. Last year, let's say we had 10 grand of history books in the budget last year. Well, we might not have history books in the budget for, this is Thompson, so it might be another 15 or 20 years before we tend to really wring out our textbooks. So there's a lot of, and that's really what the object view on the following pages tries to get at. And I'm sure, even if I go through this again, I'm sure I'll see a couple that seem odd, like what the heck is going on there. But inevitably, it's things like that we had a purchase that we had to do, like textbooks, that only happens once in a while. So if we were doing that this year and we hadn't for the last 5 years, the textbook line might be up 5,000%, and that's why.
Heather?
I have 4 broad brush questions. The first one was under plant, and you'd said that will cover Bill and his predecessor, his replacement, with an overlap, I assume.
Yes.
Does it also include the potential for a part-time admin to do
No.
all of that other stuff?
No,
Ah,
and that's the conversation we'll have under personnel.
okay,
Because I think where we're gonna harvest that time,
yeah,
might come out of the reductions that I recommend.
okay. And so my second question is, when you talked about the estimated 10% health insurance from the years past, when we know what the actual health insurance will be and when the referendum goes out, usually is cart before
Yeah.
the horse.
Yes,
And last year, the referendum was even earlier than previous years. I assume we know when the referendum is? And is
Yes,
it early again, like
it's the
last year?
same schedule as
it's the
last
same
year.
Okay.
schedule.
And that's really a result of us combining the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen meetings on the town side.
Yeah,
So where we would have a series of selectmen meetings and then a series of finance meetings, those are combined for the first, I think it's 5.
right,
And that saves us some time, and what that allows us to do is do the referendum earlier, which in this instance might be not great,
right.
but for example, with last year, if we hadn't have implemented that change.
Oh, I know, we would still be probably having budget referendums right now.
And the
Yeah,
cash crunch would have been.
Yeah, right,
Would have been even worse, so
Right.
although it didn't pay off in the way I hoped it would pay off,
Right.
it paid off nonetheless.
okay.
Yeah, we
So
usually
when is
get
that date though? When is the
usually the
healthcare date?
second week of April,
April.
yeah.
Oh,
And
well,
the,
then
and the
you-
first.
that was later than that.
Yeah, we approve our budget. Like, we
Yeah.
approve our budget.
Right,
to
right,
send the
right.
Like in
regular-
March.
Because one year it did burn
In
us, the
It did.
healthcare.
It
was,
did.
It was
It went
higher than anticipated, and so we
Right.
had to cut things.
That's why the 10% is kind of safe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
So then my third question is the EastCon thing. EastCon was the thing that we were thinking about possibly doing in-house, is that right? Was that the one?
So no, so there
Okay.
are some students that attend programming for special education services at EastCon. I can't
Oh,
remember if
okay.
the number's 2 or 3 students. However, they just sent us a document that said that all of their services under special education is going up 8%, which is a big number
Yeah,
on the students that are there. And we have no control over that. And, you know, they've got their own set of issues, but, with their budget, but the reality is that's a high number to go up.
yeah. And they had no options for that.
So
from
at this moment in time, knowing what I know about the students and the programming, the programs appropriately match the students' needs. And there's no other option because there's good programming there.
And then my last question was transportation. I know you had mentioned that this includes the bus route consolidation, but we also took, I think, 2 buses off the road,
That's what
right?
he's talking
With
about.
penalty, and that's all built
That's
into
it,
this
that's built in.
number.
Yeah.
Okay.
The penalty's built in, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Matt, did you
Yeah.
have a?
Yeah, quick, I'm hoping you have something of an answer. The overall health insurance that the board pays for.
Yep.
I know it fluctuates year to year, but is it on the order of like 3 million or 4 million?
It's just, at this point, it's just under 3.
Okay, so 10% of, yeah,
2.9.
Right.
Don't quote me
No,
on
no,
that, but
that's
that's
fine.
off the top of my head. And again, just in case for our new members and for anyone on the online audience, we calculate our health insurance exposure or budget by going employee by employee. So we literally have everybody on a spreadsheet and the level of coverage, whether it's single, +1, or family, or no coverage. And that is what rolls up. On the town, we add a placeholder employee to try to capture things like people moving from single to family. We did not do that on the Board of Ed side because the budget pressure is so tight. Because you'd be looking at it's essentially $40,000. And there's a lot of stuff in here that's below 40,000 that we hate to lose.
Yeah,
So-
the thing about hiring young teachers, right, beginning teachers is eventually, they're going to have family and then they switch from the single +1 to family plan, and that's a significant increase. And I can tell you that we do have some potential family changes.
so to follow that up, 3 million, call it 3 million out of 21,000, that's, or 23,000, that's basically 1/8, that's 12% of our whole budget is just health insurance,
Right.
which we can't do anything about. Most of our budget, we can't do anything about.
Right.
So, but that's, just to put a percentage on it, it's
Right.
12%, and, yeah, so, thank you.
And frankly, it's nerve wracking because you don't, sitting in my seat, you don't want to miss somebody's coverage or have somebody marked single who's actually family. I mean, that's
Yeah.
$15,000 right there. So we're pretty diligent in going over it as we work it into the model.
Kathleen?
Yes, once we get towards the end of it, is it possible to run this by object code so that we can roll up
Sure.
health insurance
Yep.
and salaries and?
You're right, Kathleen. The detail pages show it by organ object, but also by department, so you don't have the total
Right,
org.
right.
Oh,
and it
yes,
is-
I
And it
definitely
is
can.
good to
Yep.
look at totals, and to answer your question, if you go into the detail, you can see that 1% that the health insurance in the high school is 37,000, which is a little bit over 1% of that 4.1%.
So that would line up with the estimate of about 3% on the
Yes.
salary side.
Yes.
Right.
Because I will say there was not a lot of movement on the things like instructional supplies, office supplies, that type of stuff. Like the departments really held the line, the schools and the departments held the line on those. And then of course Melinda has her pet items that she strikes immediately.
Well, it's just that you have to look at what the teachers are requesting. I've been here 9 years, so I know along the way, okay, well, that program got X amount of dollars, we'll give a little bit to the program, but I don't think we said completely, I don't think there's anything in the budget that we completely zeroed out, but we gave a little piece.
Well, some of, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Hold on. Justin, go ahead.
So, a couple of general, once again, I think this is very detailed and I appreciate it. I know where we go every year. What was our starting number? Before you guys started crunching and dicing and slicing anything, what was that number?
I would say it was $300,000 to $400,000 higher.
Okay.
Yeah,
So plus 400K, we'll say.
So 24-1.
well, you can see that on my memo, 177,000 of it is right here.
Right.
There was probably another 50 in technology. I'm telling you, out of the schools, not much came out. We all know that our budget is just about 80% or a little bit more of salary. And so the money is always in the people. And the problem is that for 9 years, we've been cutting people and we're down to, we can't operate a school system any longer the way we have been going. And that's why, rather than me push forward my recommendations on what we should cut, which is the typical thing that I do every year, I think we need to have a conversation around what are the pros and cons of, for example, I'll throw one thing out there and let's not perseverate on it, but okay, each school has some permanent subs, right? Some of those subs take healthcare, some might not. But the cost of that is a fixed cost every year. We can pull those permanent subs out. I can tell you what the downside of that is. The downside of that is we're not going to have people covering classes. Kids are going to get doubled up. We're going to have issues when we have the flu and all of that. And this other subline is going to go up. But we implemented those positions, but there is some benefits, and I haven't figured out on the 4 people that we do have hired, who takes the healthcare benefits, and that's my next work to be done. But that's a conversation that we can have. Is this something we're willing to sacrifice and roll the dice on? There's a couple of other things that are a little bit more charged that I'd like to bring forward through my brief so that you can look at it and then we can talk about it on the 21st. None of it's good. And I got to be honest with you, I spent a lot of time over the break trying to figure out, okay, are there any positions that I am missing that we could reduce and still work the district? I'm going to say to you, no. Not without a lot of angst, because we've pulled out multiple positions that I believe were key positions that we are suffering for it now, but we're making do. And I think that's what Thompson Public Schools has done. They make do, but we're at a breaking point where something's going to give, and you're going to have to make and me too, some hard decisions around, are we going to start hitting programs for kids? And that's where we're at. And so I think that we should have a focused discussion on personnel, and I am going to prepare a document for you that'll give you the pros of taking it out and the cons of taking it out. But there's more cons than anything else. And I think for the board members that have been here, how we've scraped down to, taking out positions. And we're starting to make good gains. And we're coming up. So pull out reading teachers, we might as well, forget the movement going forward because that'll all collapse. So there's a lot of things that we've got to discuss around personnel because that's where the money is.
Kathleen had her hand up first.
Yeah, I did. There are also, for the new members, there's also teachers in here whose salaries aren't in here because of the federal grants, the
Yes.
IDEA grant.
Yes, and that's actually a great example of
Yeah.
a little nugget of information that shows up in the object definitions. I think this budget has 4 teachers who are grant funded.
Mhm.
And that's, you find that on 50104, I think.
Heather?
For teachers, we have a career pathway support coordinator, the media specialist, the circulation specialist, and those 2 positions are on Alliance, which is different from those 4 federal grants. And math lab teachers are on Alliance right now.
Okay.
Other than that, that's 200 grand. I mean, that's not a lot of money. But we stretched it pretty far this year. So.
Heather?
Piggybacking off of the salaries stuff, is it possible, and I know we've talked about it before, and I can't remember if it was or wasn't possible, or maybe you have it somewhere. One of the sticking points and things that people who aren't familiar with our budget, when they do look at it eventually, always freak out about, is when they see large numbers and it says salary, and they assume it's one person.
Yeah.
Is there any way that we can say 2.5 people or
Yeah, I can
4
I mean,
people?
you definitely did
Because
on the
otherwise they
teachers, for
see
example.
$300,000 for high school social studies and they're like, oh my gosh,
Sure.
what are they paying these people?
Sure,
And then it spirals from there.
sure.
Yeah, I know. It's like, use your head, idiot.
I don't know where you can put that, Bill. Do you?
I could put it in the
In here.
object.
Object
Like, or something.
It's in here, isn't it?
Account description, I
Even
don't
if it's
know.
a separate document
Right.
that says
Yeah.
the object code and then the number of
That's the
people that are supported
problem.
under it.
The
But-
problem, the problem with, at the object code level, you have the teacher object code in all of the schools. So for example, it's the 3rd one on the sheet.
Yeah.
We'll see, it says
I'm
90
wondering though, like,
certified teachers.
Account description, like for instance, there's only gonna be 1 middle school social studies. There's gonna be
Right.
1 high school social studies.
I can break that down in a document if people
I'm
wanted to
just,
look
my
at.
concern is that people usually are looking at this.
Yeah.
And they've never come to a meeting and they're looking at it without much background or knowledge. And then they just see, admin salary, $400,000, but it's 4 people, whatever it is, you know what I mean?
Like, right
Bill, is there a
within the
way
accounts.
that?
Yeah, account
I-
description and just a little parentheses that says 4.5 or
So
something. I
like
don't know.
line 26. I just randomly picked one.
Yep.
There's no way that there's a single high school science teacher at $230,000.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Because I'm in the
Actually-
wrong profession.
Me
So in
too.
that case, there
Uh-huh.
wouldn't be another account description that would say HS science salary.
No.
That's the only
Right.
one, and there's 3 or
So
whatever.
we could add a parenthetical, like, for example,
Three.
3.
Yeah,
Right.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And just pull it.
That's a,
Or can a
I
column
think
go
that would-
in
please
right
know
next to
that-
it?
That's a lot
a
of
lot to update.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
But yes, we can give it a go.
But I think if we have the data for discussion, at least we have the data, right?
Mhm.
Right now, we don't know if that's 2 or 3. We know it's not 1,
Right.
but we, not even us, the board members, know if that's 2 or 3 until we're told that that's 3.
Right.
Right? So I think that was, and to piggyback on the back of Heather's, I just wanted to confirm pretty much every salary on here except for that set of salaries that we approve raises on in April.
The
the
non-certified staff.
non-certified staff. Everything else in here is contracted salary,
Correct.
right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
For the non-cert, were 10, I think?
Yeah, there's,
I think there's 10 that are outside.
And then, sorry, one more.
go ahead.
Do we have a revenue line somewhere?
No, there's no revenue line on there. If you're thinking of the ECS grant, that's on the town side, it's actually part of the town's budget.
I was thinking about,
Excess cost,
no, I was thinking about the,
Medicaid.
like we've got EastCon coming in for night welding.
Oh,
OCT
there's not
states
gonna be
they're
any
not
revenue.
paying- They're not, they're just paying some bills potentially, like to
Yes.
run the program,
Right,
It's
but
not-
those,
salary.
like the security officer is gonna fall under this budget. If we don't have something to offset that security officer being here extra hours,
It's gonna be billed separately, so it won't be even hitting the BOE budget. So I know what you're thinking. How do you record the ins and outs?
yeah. Like, how are we gonna show that,
I mean, that's
We got reimbursed for it.
right,
usually those reimbursements are relatively small, every now and then when we rent a facility out or something like that. That I think would be,
Right, but they've said that part of the agreement would they'd be paying for the gas, they'd be paying for equipment, they'd be paying for things
right.
that are consumables, that currently probably are in this budget. That was
Is it
an
in this
offset.
budget?
Right now it is, yes, but yeah.
but even, so regardless of that piece of it, like,
Mhm.
there's facility costs that we're going to incur that are going to be offset by a check that they're gonna be writing to the district. How are we gonna show that in this budget?
I would suggest, because this is a little different than any, revenues that we would see on the
Because
smaller rentals.
They're gonna have to pay for that's different. They're gonna have to
this
pay
is
for the
definitely-
security.
We could do how we've handled kind of similar items in the past. We could set up, it's not a grant, so just bear with me on the use of that word, but we can set up grant accounts for EastCon welding program revenue. And then what we can do, so we would park that in the grant fund, and we would offset that
With the
at the end of the year. So let's say we got $30,000 from them. We would take $30,000 of security salaries, consumables, and we would reclass that out of the BOE budget so that it would net to zero. And that's how, because we aren't actually allowed to have a revenue account on the BOE side. And that's why it's handled in
How would we
grant
handle
type
if we
accounts.
had a tuition student? Would
We've
that be
not gotten
considered?
one.
Yeah.
Right, but say
so-
we did,
but-
say we did.
Yeah, so that would more than likely be the same thing. We
Yeah.
do sometimes receive funding from districts because for, if it's a DCF placement or a Forster placement where the other district has to play for special ed, we do receive checks in, but you put that against the special ed costs.
Right.
I still think in this budget, and Bill and I differ on this opinion. In my former district, which seems like a lifetime ago, we always had a revenue line for excess cost and a revenue line for Medicaid, just so it was there. And I still think we should call it out somehow in the budget. I don't care how. It's just that after last summer, right, with the Medicaid, I think we need to say, these are the dollars that are projected or anticipated revenue. You do that or you used to do that on the town side with the preschool tuition. You
Yep.
would do an anticipated tuition, which is a whole other conversation, but the bottom line is that I still think that those are two income sources that should be called out in the budget.
Like, we know, we've done in the past the ECS income source, like, we kind of know some of our income sources, but I think if that's gonna be a thing, and we've already announced that that's gonna be a thing
And
here,
it sounds like it's got
Yeah.
popularity.
and it's got some legs,
I know. Yeah.
So, but if we can't show those ins and outs, I think we're gonna run into well, now are the taxpayers of Thompson supplementing this program? What are we
Yeah.
doing?
That
We're
question
hiding
was
money.
already asked, was how much is this gonna cost me in taxes
And
now?
what we need to be able to show is that it's not costing us money. It's either a net zero or a net benefit to the district.
Yeah,
Correct me
and
if
there's
I'm-
some,
And fiscally, I know it's not going to be a net benefit, a open book
Mhm.
net benefit to the district, right? Where there's going to be supplies and some other stuff that are going to offset it. I think it's going to be great for district visibility, but I think net dollar wise, I think it looks like it's got to look like a zero.
yeah. I should have a better handle on that within the next couple of weeks. We have a couple of meetings lined up. Really is the devil is in the details of that contract, where we thought it was just gonna be, a simple thing, has now gotten really tangled up in some contract language and lawyers, not our lawyers, but on the state side. So I'm hoping to get some clarity around what that contract is gonna look like, so. And how they're gonna call out, they're paying for the gas, they're paying for the steel, they're paying for all the soldering supplies, so.
Jess, I've got one more, but I'll let someone
Get
else
Matt,
go if they
we'll
have.
let Matt go first.
Excuse me, salaries, speaking as somebody on the negotiating committee, we are, so salaries go up on average 2.5% to 3.5% per year, depending on the union, depending on the year, but we are the lowest in pretty much every union category in the region. And so the salaries is really, yes, it goes up, everything goes up every year, but there's not much we can do about it. And we can't be any lower because then people just start walking out the door to go someplace else, any place else. They're already getting paid less than other places. So that's just my 2 cents on the salary issue. And we don't pay our people enough, but
We're also a binding arbitration state, so the union could go to arbitration and then we are ordered to pay
Whatever.
So
whatever
we
gets
do
ordered.
strike the best deal we can with all of our unions, and the unions are generally very cooperative. So that's my 2 cents on
I mean,
salaries.
I've been watching the board negotiate contracts for now 9.5 years, and I can say that the board members really try to hold the line, but also be respectful of the staff that are lowest in wages in the region. And so, it's a challenge, but I want to make sure that we retain our teachers. We're fortunate that we have retained a lot of our teachers, and they're willing to stay with us. I think that goes back to our principals creating work environments that people want to stay here. And Thompson is a great place to work.
You two have been quiet. Do you have any comments before I go back to the other side of the table?
I think my only thing would be, so why are we not allowed to show whatever money would be coming from, the state program with the
Oh, we
welding?
can, we just would do it in the grant fund. This program would probably be the most, by far, the most significant income like that we would get.
Cause like we just can't put
Similarly-
another line here that states like, that's
Yeah,
what we would do,
Well,
we put another line.
But I have to think of how it would fit in the books.
Mhm.
And it would be in the grant fund.
Okay.
And we can just talk about that, and it's similar to the way we handle Medicaid.
Yeah.
On the Medicaid front, the problem there is, the reason that isn't built directly into the budget in that particular item is because there are so many factors that drive how, number one, we don't get a lot of money, I think, as everybody understands now, very clearly. But there's so many factors that go into what we can ultimately recoup and be reimbursed for. So in some ways, it would be irresponsible to say we think we're gonna get $60,000 because we never get that close.
Right.
So if you did, and then you run the risk of, if you under guess, then you
Everyone's
might
bad.
think, oh, you're trying to lowball, and so I think the decision at one point was made to put it in grants to make sure that we hit the nail on the head every year.
And my other thing was the EastCon, how many students?
There's either 2 or 3, I'm not sure of that number.
And do we know, like, grade wise? Like,
I can't give that information.
because my thought is, are they seniors where they don't
No.
become our problem next year? You know what I mean?
No.
They're no longer students, sort of thing,
I
right?
can tell
Like,
you they're not seniors.
that's, you know what I mean? That's my thing. Because I know when we get the reports, you can see how many, like, we have a higher number of 11th and 12th graders that are going to Killingly versus lower. They're right? They're dropping off soon. They're graduating. I know it will recycle, right? Some will come and go. We hope we don't lose more students out. But do we look at those numbers and say, well,
So if they're under 10, we should not report that because it can identify a student. Even me making a comment that 2 or 3 students could identify those students, right? So typically, districts will put an asterisk there if it's anything under 10 students, whatever that number is. I can say that the students that I know that are there are not.
we have them there for a little bit.
We're gonna have them for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was my thing. Like, when we build this budget, are we looking at, we have however many seniors for Killingly VOAG that are going to be leaving.
Oh, yeah.
Is that all the numbers
Yep.
get manipulated? They're gone and now we
Correct.
estimate maybe 5 or something.
We've been holding steady with this, around the same number between 20 and 26 students at the BOAG total.
Yep.
You know, grades 9 through 12. This current year, we have very few students that went in as
Right.
freshmen. We hear that might change next year. We don't know until the kids actually register and get accepted. But if that is true, we had reduced that budget this year based on what we knew
Right.
going
Then-
into this year for 9th graders. But we're hearing that there might be a few more students that are interested in the program there. I hope that doesn't play out that way, but we have to have a safety net there because I don't know where we would get the money to pay that tuition.
Right. If I could, Jessica, because this
Sure.
actually, you brought up just kind of sparked a thought. In general, especially in pupil services, you can look at that budget a couple ways. You say, boy, this seems to go up every year, so let's budget for expecting another 3 kids to come in. Unfortunately, those numbers are enormous.
Yeah.
And then, well, maybe we could pick up a little budget money by thinking, oh, maybe a few of them will move out. Because that's the thing, is that can literally happen. Last year, all of you guys will remember, at the very end of the budget process, we had a few students move into town right as we were finalizing the budget. That affected the special ed budget to the tune of $300,000. So what we sort of settled on as a board, you guys have settled on the board. I don't get a vote. Just to be clear. We look at our population of students right now, and we budget for that next year.
We just hold.
Right, because that way you can't really be accused of trying to pad it by adding students or trying to lowball it by cutting students. This is what we know about right now, and last year was a perfect example. It was late in the game when those kids moved in, and we reacted immediately in the budget and built it in for next year because we had that. We knew we've got those guys, so let's make accommodations in the budget for it.
Is Amanda on?
She was.
Oh,
Yep, she
Yeah,
is.
she is.
Amanda, do you have any questions? I don't want you to leave you out.
I don't think that's the same Amanda.
Okay. Not ours. Okay. Kristen?
Is there a time frame or deadline of when students have to tell you that they're going to Killingly, or can they, like special ed, halfway through the year just switch?
Exactly.
So, Ellis
Now,
figures in the same way too.
Ellis is a transportation cost, but for QMC and Killingly, we're on the hook if they register there prior to October 1st, and we're billed for that. If they transfer to Killingly after that date and Killingly accepts them, we're not charged for the year we're in.
Well,
Okay.
can't we just encourage our students to do that?
Just delay after October
just a
1.
couple of months.
Justin, did you have anything else?
No, I got a couple.
Okay, go ahead.
So we're gonna get hit, as we always do, we get hit with the enrollment. Somebody does a math equation on our current enrollment versus the 23,711,000, somebody does that math. Now, I recently, on a social media side, on a completely different side of the world, did some math. And if you do the rough math and you take out the pupil services portion of the budget, and you do the math on total enrollment versus that total school, total enrollment versus that total school, we're right around $13,000 or $14,000 per student, per school, right? Give or take, we're somewhere in there. You add in the special education, of course, it pops up to 21, 22, 23. But we know that that's not 26%, I think was last month's, 26% of our population has the 5 million and change,
Extra service.
6 million and change, 5 million and change extra services. The 75% of our enrollment population has not much left. So I think when we go through this year, one of the things that we really need to focus on, because it's going to be compared 100 times over, is our general education students' budget versus what is tacked on top of that. Because people are going to turn around and say, oh, well, Marionopolis is 19,000. Oh, Woodstock is 21,000, 20,000. Great, that's 20,000. That's without any of the pupil services involved in it, any. The second you tack on any of that, those are hard dollar costs on top of all of that. So where our enrollment is today, 790 and change, give or take, I think it was last month.
Somewhere around there.
785.
Yeah. You figure 75% of that. If we were to figure that all 785 were general education students, fine. We could totally throw out a budget tomorrow that we could hold to firm. That's not the luxury that we live in. There's 25% of our enrollment population that requires some sort of additional service for the least restrictive learning environment. And that is what is the volatility in our budget. And to that end, and I've saved this comment in the past, but I think my filter's broken. To that end, this year seems to be the year that general ed is definitely going to suffer because we have to supplement by law for least restrictive environment or to pupil services. And I can't sit on this board and say yes to a budget when that's going to happen. The 75% of our population is going to get services cut, programs cut, something cut, because the state and the federal law prohibits us from being able to have any other movement on that budget line.
Not great, but the other kids are also being cut though. It's not just because they're also part of that 75%. They're still getting
So
sports. They're
100%
still
of the
getting
100% of the population gets
Right,
cut, yes,
It's a
but
whole thing.
but it's a minority set of students that impacts the majority set of students. And I'm going to use a drastic example. If there's a set of residents that move into town that consume the entire music department's salaries and budget, that we have to then move numbers for, and music department goes, 100% of the population suffers. This town needs to start realizing that we don't have any room in this budget to wiggle anymore. We're shoestring and duct taped as it is. And we've been accused over the years of padding and moving and this, that, and the other thing, and enough's enough. It's about, we gotta be honest, and we gotta be honest with each other this year, because this is it's getting dicey.
So not that I want to throw this off the rails, this discussion for FY '27. However, on Monday night, the discussion I'm going to bring forward is for you to allow me to go to the Board of Finance, write a letter, I'll draft it, we need a supplemental allocation to get through this year. We know it has to go to referendum. We know it'll more than likely fail. And then the board is gonna have to make a hard decision and take the advice of our attorney and start to look at what legal aspects we have, because we can't make that budget. And I think this is gonna be your pivotal year, because in the past, when we froze budget lines, we gave up whatever. And somehow, not that we had the money, we did away with things that we desperately needed, we just never got. And so we've done that time and time and time again. And this year, because we stripped everything we could think of out of the budget, freezing the budget right now is going to do nothing to that bottom line number for special ed. It is going to do nothing. And sure, maybe we get a break and somebody moves out, right? That's a high cost, but I want the board to also focus on that we do have a 26% population of students with identified disabilities. You forget about the 40% of kids that have reading disabilities, right? And then the other percentage of kids, and I don't know what that comes to, for ELL services, right? And then, believe it or not, under under pupil services, any enrichment programs, which we start to talk about, maybe AP classes and those kinds of things, that's another certain population of students. So when you look at it, it's just not pinpointing. We love to do that because it's a high number, but we also put a big investment in reading in this district. Why? Because our students aren't where they needed to be. We're starting to see all that work have a significant positive impact on our kids' outcomes. It took us years to get here, but there's some big salaries there, just around reading. And so this is the year that the general budget will never offset the overage in special ed. It's just not.
Daniela had her hand up first.
Not that I want to ever do it, but do we have to allow our children to go to Killingly or anywhere?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
know how
Yes,
that part works.
it's school
We are
choice,
required.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's mandated,
Yeah.
we can't say sorry.
We
No.
would have already done.
And I would like to point out that they are only required to take one BOE course
To go there.
Per semester.
per semester.
Okay.
Which is.
And I pulled transcripts to make sure that's
Yeah.
happening, and it is.
And that same thing for Ellis and everything, we have to give
We
them
have
the
to
options.
provide the transportation. QMC, we pulled back on transportation years ago. We don't have a partnership with them. But if a student goes there, and we think we have 3 or 4 this year, we still get charged the tuition. So,
But it's something required that we.
it's required, it's in state regs, and I have argued till I'm blue in the face about it. There's not much we can do, even though they don't have a pathway to agriculture.
Right.
They exploratory, similar to what we do with our career pathways, right? It's just that I feel like they don't have a clear pathway with a series of classes that they have to take. They can pick and choose
Yeah.
each semester. But the state is okay with that because, and we should be too, I guess, is because this is the year students try out things to decide what career they're going to go down. So, yeah, that number is insignificant when you think about special ed, reading disabilities, ELL, all of that. I mean, what is it, 83,000 this year? I mean, it's a small number compared to the high population of students that need specialized instruction in Thompson Public Schools. And there's a lot of correlations you can look up in research why that is. SES is a big thing, socioeconomic status has a direct correlation to special education and reading disability. That's why Title I was developed back in the day. And we benefited from that, but we don't even get that much money for Title I. It doesn't even fully cover a reading teacher's salary. So I
Make it
think
make
this is a
sense.
pivotal year it's gonna be a challenging year for the members of the board, and I apologize to the new members, but we have to ask for a supplemental allocation. We're not gonna make it this year. And it's not like we could put the brakes on spending. There hasn't been anything that's come through that's really been an extra expense. It's basic stuff, crayons, paper, that's coming through. Repairs, building repairs and things that are breaking down are happening more frequently. And that'll flush out in budget when Bill gets here, when he starts to talk about facilities, talk about the alarm system. Let's talk about the aging camera system. And, you know, after the school shooting at Brown, cameras are important, right? I need to go on record telling you that our cameras need to be upgraded. We have to do that. We have to put it somewhere in the 5-year plan. We're still waiting for some security grant money to come along. We haven't seen it in 2 or 3 years now. So it just seems like everything is starting to line up in a bad way. And I've been doing this for a long time, and that's why I want to have a discussion with you folks, because I'm at a point where all those places that we typically look for to make reductions, over the 9.5 years, we've already done it. So I'm at a loss.
Matt,
So I've been on the board for 4 years or so, give or take. It's all a big blur. But I've been involved
Yeah.
in the board for a long time and sat there for a long time. And I've been watching. It's kind of the same thing every year, but every year it's like we just keep whittling away at the muscle, we're whittling away at the tendons, and there is nothing but bone left. And it's
Sad.
and every year you come up with some kind of magic. Oh, well, we got this. Oh, well, we got this. Oh, we really don't need this. Well, we are down to, we need everything that's left, and there's not much left, and we need it all just to keep the building standing and keep the.
And remember what our charge is, right? Our charge is to provide
So,
an
But-
education for these kids.
Fair.
but, and we keep, the budget has to go to a vote, and it's the same.
Yep.
We keep pandering to the same people that are going to say no regardless.
Mhm.
And it's no, and that's the only answer that they have is no. And so we need, I don't know how, I wish I knew how, and I really almost want to cry. We need to get the people that are the maybes and the yeses to show up. And I don't know how to do that. We have an amazing communications committee, and they do a fantastic job, but I don't know. I don't know what it is other than dragging people out of their homes to vote. And honestly, I kind of, how many voters do we have in this town? 5,000, 6,000?
Like 6,200.
Okay, 6,200. The fact that 1,000 people vote,
Is a problem.
and then 3,000 complain. If you don't show up, you don't. I don't know. I am to the point of tears basically. Because I don't know. I want this town to be successful, and we can close the schools, we can close the fire departments, and the kids are going to be running around burning things down. And where will that be? So it's really heartbreaking.
I know it's incredibly frustrating, and along the way, we've done some really miraculous things, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
With somehow we fell into some grant money, we made the right connections, we've done a great deal that a lot of people are noticing.
Yeah.
And we should be proud of that work. But the very basics of, teaching students to read and write has to still be there, and there's not much else. I'll bring you some suggestions. We can talk about the positions. We can talk about the pitfalls of those positions being eliminated. And then when we come to, you give me some kind of guidance, I'll go back and give you my final number before you start to look at the budget line by line. But I can't come up with $2 million.
No.
Kathleen?
You just when that schedule that we have in the package or the presentation, where it shows how much they cut year after year after year. And I realize that the Board of Finance has to cut because their duty is to get a budget passed.
Of course.
But they cut us below our contractual costs. How are you gonna run? How are we gonna operate year after year after year below the inflation rate, below our contractual costs? And as you said, last year, we cut 6 positions. Well, we can't continue to do that. And yes, our enrollment has declined.
It has.
And we have cut positions to match that decline. But you still have to teach the 3 R's, and we still have to offer enough courses up in the high school to pass, to get your, get
25 credits.
yeah, the credits to get your degree. And it's just, I don't know where you go. And I think, Melinda, I will support you 100% on, we have to give a shock to this town. Hey, wake up, guys. You cannot keep doing this. And unless you find a school to regionalize with, which no school wants to regionalize, there is no the answer.
So, whether Mr. Herbert was sitting here or not, I would say, I would honestly say that the current Board of Finance, I think, is working with us a lot better than previous boards of finance, and I appreciate that. And that's whether you're sitting here or not, Steve. I really do appreciate that. And if it was up to me and I had the independent financial wherewithal to do it, I would go and sue the state to get money. You know, it's not feasible. The town doesn't have the money, but the state is not holding their end of the bargain up. And I can say that at every meeting.
Suing the town, right? You never sue the state. I've
Right.
never heard of a case of
No.
suing the
But
state.
no, but I
It's
mean,
always
something
your own
has
town.
got to give. The town, the town doesn't have the money to the state is not doing their job.
No.
And
Absolutely.
and I don't know, unless one of us sitting here runs for governor, it's not going to happen. And our current administration is not going to deal with it, and the current legislature has no spine to do it either, and it's really unfortunate. And those that do just seem to be in the minority. So it's really, they've abrogated their duty to educate the students of the state.
Heather.
Is there any creative way that we can, because one of, I think, the untapped portion of voters, or maybe even not registered voters, is our parents. You know, the parents may or may not be registered, the parents may or may not be going out to vote. Theoretically, if every single mom and dad to every single student we have actually voted, I think the tide would turn.
Sure.
I know we can't legally plead for a yes vote as the Board of Ed. However, is there any creative ways that we can interact with our families at events or parent teachers or something on a more generic standpoint, like getting them registered to vote? Are, you know, like having that availability at parent teacher nights? Oh, are you a registered voter? You know, budgets, you know, get passed by those who vote. Here's a registration, you know, like trying to like at least make people aware. Because like I think I've explained this scenario once before, but it literally blew my mind. This was a college educated nurse who had a child who my children were of the same age, and they were in their teens, the child. So they'd lived here for 12, 13 years at this point, and I nonchalantly had mentioned, oh, don't forget to vote, you know, at a birthday party or something to her. And she goes, oh, there's a budget vote? When is that? And I'm like, oh, well, it's every April or May, you know, every year we have to pass a budget. She didn't even know where her polling place was. She's lived in town for 15 years, a parent of 2 children in our district.
Right.
So I know there's a population of people in our town that probably aren't registered and definitely aren't voting. And I just don't know if we can tap into that at school functions while we have a captive audience in a
Oh,
creative way that is not, you know,
Legal.
Basic
Illegal.
voter registration campaign can
Right.
be happening in every
Exactly.
school. There can be something at every event that we can call out and
and
make,
making them aware of
make
the
a
budget.
statement. If you are new to town,
Yeah,
here is the voter registration. I mean, we can generically do that.
I think we, especially gearing up to like anytime basically now to budget vote day, we should be taking an opportunity to let people know that the vote, the budget vote will be this date.
Right.
Have you been registered? If not, it's very easy, this is how you can do it. And just kind of keep harping on it almost at every chance we get, because at least they know the date.
Yeah.
They know what to do, and if it's on them then at that point,
Okay. I mean, I can certainly put my mind to that reminder constantly.
Yeah.
And making some posters and having them hang, are you registered to vote?
Right,
Here are the forms.
right.
Danielle and I can do that.
And I don't know, like Frank or Eileen, in the voter, the
They
registrar of
come here a
voters,
lot.
they're
yeah.
very helpful, and obviously with getting students registered that are eligible. I don't know if there's any creativity that we can get with them to have them be present at key things like a parent-teacher night or something, to have a table,
They come for the students, so
I
I
know.
would imagine they would do
Right,
that.
I'm just wondering if they knew in advance of some dates, like the spring parent-teacher, whatever it is, March, February, whatever it is.
Well,
Um,
an upcoming event in a couple of weeks is the Mystery Dinner Theater, right?
Right, or when is
That's-
when
that's
is
a
the big
pro-
show? The Willy Wonka
So
or whatever?
March.
Okay, so like Willy Wonka, can they come to Willy Wonka?
So
And
Here's your golden
and
ticket.
stand, like be at the concessions table, and be like registering people to vote.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even.
I don't know.
But I think as much as, I apologize for interrupting, but as much as there's getting them registered to vote, it's just educating people on what is going on. There's so many people in this town
Right.
that,
I think this is closed door.
well,
Right.
not only think that this is closed door, but think that this budget is take 23,711,294 divided by 785, and that's what we're paying per student, and it's not. There's so many other aspects of this budget. I mean, we're gonna spend the next 3 months, every Monday, sitting here talking about this, and at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to a vote in April that's gonna go yes or no based on somebody saying 23,711,000 divided by 785, and that's where we're at. Look, these districts are doing it cheaper. Move on. Vote no. I hate to say it, Matt, you've said it every year, and I was naive the first year, and I said, no, we gotta really, at this point, let's put, motion to approve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not, my time
I'm with
on
you
Monday,
there.
my time on Monday nights, your time, administrator's time, Bill's time on Monday nights, add the 400,000 into it to give the Board of Finance something and the townspeople to think they cut something special this year. Motion to send this budget forward.
Yeah.
Hold on, because Daniela did have her hand up.
I'm serious.
I'm trying to.
Wait a second.
I will say, multiple times, Melinda, you have announced everything I've been to about coming out to vote. So you're already doing great. I am shocked at how many parents and community members didn't know to vote or where to vote that I have met. And I'm like, what? Huh? Even this past fire one, there were a few people, they were like, I'm like, oh, they saw my daughter had the vote sticker on. And they're like, what did she vote for? And I was like, you got to go out today and vote about the fire. And they're like, huh? What? Like, I don't know why people don't know. I don't know how we get people to know. And it's not just us. It's everywhere. It's everything. It's the whole town. I know someone made a comment. They said, oh yeah, I got a call from a friend that said, did you see in the turnpike about going out to vote for the fire? She goes, that thing comes in the mail. I throw it in the trash. So she had no clue because that was the only place she would have seen it. We have to figure out how to get out to people in a way. I don't know what that is. But I do agree with Justin. That was going to be my thing. Let's just, for all I care, you can add another 100,000 to this. Go for it. It's going to get denied no matter what anyway. So let's just,
Well,
So-
I
You know,
feel like
like-
Groundhog's Day.
Yes.
Every year at
Every
this time.
So I know that in the past, I forgot how many years ago it was, 2 years, 3 years ago, we did try to say, oh, hey, the special ed numbers were a little bit low. Let's go ahead and bump it up a little bit
Yep.
because we know somebody who's gonna move into town. But Bill, you correctly did say, well, you can't do that because if you've had it and blah blah blah. But we wouldn't, if we had done that for this year, we possibly wouldn't have had that problem. And I'm not saying that,
It would have been
We-
cut anyway.
no, it would have been cut anyway. So it's yeah, we could, I will second Justin's motion to send the 23,711,294 to the Board of Finance.
Why
And
not?
there's nothing left to cut.
I
That's a
would like to
formal
have
motion.
another
That is a formal
meeting. We
I
have to
second it.
do the presentation and I'd like to review this and understand it because we
Right.
have to defend it. And
No, but
we
we're
have
all-
to do the presentation. We have to prepare the presentation.
I know.
Justin's serious, so his motion was to
Yeah.
move the budget of 23,711,000. I'm so freaking exhausted. So the 23,711,294. Feel free to edit that later.
Yeah.
To the Board of Finance, and Matt seconded it. Okay.
Right, and we'll
Well,
move-
we have to do it to a regular meeting first, right? To a regular Board of Ed meeting for approval? Because this is
No,
technically a
this is a
budget
meeting.
workshap, right?
This is a meeting.
Yeah,
It's a meeting.
It's open to the public.
Yeah, this is a meeting, we can do this, this is a budget meeting, you can do this. And then your regular Board of Ed meeting, you just do regular Board of Ed stuff.
Okay.
And maybe you put the emphasis on those other, it's not for discussion.
Nope. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Go around the table. Justin,
Yes?
Heather,
Not yet, no.
Yes.
Matt, Kristen,
No.
Rick,
Yes.
Daniela,
Sure.
Kathleen.
Yes.
I'm gonna vote yes.
Right, now, that doesn't mean that we still have to prepare the
Right, we still have to do the
presentation, we
pers-
still have
These
to
numbers.
budget,
These numbers.
Right.
but we'll use these numbers. Why not?
Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
and maybe we put the emphasis on the meetings we have on the books, on how to get the word out.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I may raise my hand.
Yes.
We need to follow and step ahead on what Heather said. We need to find out how to communicate to those 5,000 people.
Yeah.
And last year, as I read the shopper's guide and there were 700 that voted no. And apparently that was all that showed up because every referendum failed and 700 votes. Somehow we, sitting at a table at the schools every day or something, the shopper's guide, we talked about that at our meetings. We got to find out a way to talk to the parents and the grandparents and those that are here in the town. And I'd love to explore how do we communicate to the state. I don't know if we have a lawyer that'll pro bono or something, but we need to find out. There was an opponent in the selectmen's vote, if you would, that didn't win, but I sat there and talked to him outside the library, and he had a lot of ideas. And I don't know why that's not coming forward, because we need to find a way to get the quiet corner out,
Loud.
because I've seen a mailer that came to me from both
I can have
senators
them come in.
that said they did so much for the area or the districts for money. And I'm going, well, where is that? Because I keep hearing we're not getting it. And I understood there was more that the state had promised, but then have folded on, right? And so I'd love to find out how we go after that.
Kristen?
Thank you.
I think that you have to remember when you talk about the parents and the families that we're at like what 40% poverty. So
A little bit more.
not necessarily just getting every parent to vote is going to secure you
Right.
the outcome that you may wish for. Like there are people in the town that they want these things and actually literally can't afford the taxes. And
Yeah,
I'm a huge, like me personally, not as a board member, yes person. Like I'm not, but I think you just kind of have to remember
Yeah, well, you're right.
The pop, like the bigger, yeah,
It's true.
picture.
Are we able to find out
Go
if
ahead.
poverty comes out or not? Do you know what I'm saying?
Like who actually shows up to vote, what the the
right,
voting
right,
demographics.
like the demographic of it.
So
We can pull the
we
voter
have,
rolls.
we have pulled
did
them in
that.
the past.
Yes.
We've asked the registrar and they will show us who voted at every single vote.
And
It
we
doesn't tell you how
cross-reference
they voted, but it
Right.
just says
Yeah,
they showed up.
Mhm.
And you'd be shocked to see who didn't show up.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's a lot of parents, sometimes some
Staff, lots of staff don't show up.
Some staff
Some.
don't show up, but it's people that you would not have guessed that didn't bother to take the 15 minutes out of their day, you know? So it is shocking, and we do pull those on occasion and review them to see who is showing up and who isn't, and
It's tedious. We
Yeah.
did the cross-reference between, not this year, but last year,
yeah.
who voted and who are those parents that have kids in the system. And Heather's right. It was pretty shocking
Yeah.
when you looked at who didn't vote, and then I know, right, whose children are reaping some of these services that we're sitting here grappling how we're going to continue to afford.
Well, it also allowed us too to have a more targeted approach to some of the conversations we were having of explaining why those particular
If we were voted no,
Residents
but
need to
people
come
came
out.
out, I'd be
Getting-
happier
Right.
than voting no and nobody came out, right?
Yeah.
Like,
If it's the same 700 people that show up just to vote no every single time, and we can only muster 600 people to come out and vote yes, when we know there's a bullpen of 2,000 more
Yeah.
people that could vote yes if they just got off their
If they
butts.
knew.
Every time we could win every budget every time. And yes, there are people that can't afford it, but you're talking about $50 a year, $100 a year, not thousands of dollars a year when these budgets go up a little bit. At some point, the dam is
gonna
going to
get wet.
burst and the building is going to fall down. And where are we going to be then? Because we still have to provide an education to the students that are in town. When this building falls down, because we haven't spent a dime on it in 40 years, somebody's going to have to pay for it, and
And the
it's not
state's-
going to be the state.
The
It's going to
state's
be
gonna
us.
come after us to say why.
Why?
I
That's-
agree with you.
well,
I'm
we
just
need to go
saying
ask
that it's not, if you look at our school population.
Right.
Just counting solely on parents may not be the answer. You need to
Right.
reach
outside.
The whole
beyond
vote
just
No,
that,
absolutely.
because that within itself may not.
and how many I met that didn't know.
Right.
Right.
It was voting.
That's
I'm
the
like, how,
challenge.
I see it everywhere and anywhere. How are you not seeing it, right? It blew my mind.
And there is a population of people left in this country, left in this state, left in this town that believe in education.
Mhm.
And there is that core population of 600 people that are showing up to vote yes, but there are people that I don't know the reasons.
But the
And
town itself, the town, not the Board of Ed, because it's a communication subcommittee, I've never met, and I mean this in the 46 years I've been doing this, never met a well-oiled machine who have put out so much time and effort to try to figure out how to get parents to vote. But on the town side, and this is a criticism, they've done little to encourage people to vote. And they have the bigger part of the pie, right, with the population. Heather, you worked with Amy a couple of years in a row to try to get more information out to the townsfolk. But
Right.
there has to be, and if you're running into people that don't even know that something critical is up for a vote, I think we need to figure out, and maybe with the new first selectman and the new selectman, maybe when we have our joint meeting, that should be an agenda discussion. How are we gonna work together to make this happen and get more people to have voice in the town?
Mhm.
Because going for a supplemental allocation this year is gonna be like lighting a fuse, right, Bill?
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be like lighting a fuse, and the problem is that the Board of Ed is going to have to do what's right by kids, and you're going to have to move forward if that referendum and the supplemental allocation fails. And in my heart of hearts, I know what's gonna happen. And so, are you prepared for that? Because that's gonna be a tremendous backlash. But at the end of the day, you can't keep operating like this.
Mm.
I mean, I'm frustrated as heck because I can't come up with an idea. That's my job, right? To guide you and give you some ideas. Sure, I can give you some staffing ideas. I don't agree with any of them being cut, but the bottom line is that it's a frustrating place to be right now. And there's gotta be another strategy. I agree
We
with
have to find the
Justin.
revenue.
You gotta
We
figure it
have to
out.
find the revenue.
Go ahead, Justin.
So there's a method to my madness for the motion. My method to my madness of the motion is to get it out there before the supplement, to get this number out before the supplemental comes out. I also think a little bit of a headline is, Thompson Board of Education sends full budget to, Board of Selectmen on first meeting, right? Headline tomorrow morning. Let's get some attention on this so that when we're having the discussions and the workshops over the next 3 months, maybe somebody's actually going to show up from the public and pay attention, right? This is what we're putting forward. Whether we slice and dice and move 30,000, move 100,000 here, move 100,000 there, this number for the most part probably isn't going to move that much between now and April. So let's take the pressure off of us for the next 3 months. The discussions we have around this table this time of year, awesome. I love them. But the pressure's now off. This is the number we're sending to the Board of Selectmen. Now let's have the real discussions. What do we have to do to keep this district moving in a forward direction? Let the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance come back to us and go, you guys took that a little rash. Change your number, fix it. But for right now, that's my rationale. My rationale is let's spark the fire that gets a little attention on us for the next 3 months.
Kathleen?
Well, we have to defend that. But part of the problem, and you're right, Matt, we have to continue to go after the state, and you too, Rick. We have to go after the state. The economic cost share that we get has not been changed in over 15 to 20 years. It's $10,500 per student. That's ridiculous.
Yep.
There's nobody in the state that spends less than $20,000 or $19,000 per student. And they have not raised it in over 15 or more years. So we have to continue. I looked that number up about 2 months ago. You have to continue to push on the state. And that means Jeff Gordon and May Flexer, and we have to continue.
It also means rallying the other boards of education to step up as well.
Right.
We can't be the only ones screaming.
No, well, you have the forum to do that with that email thing.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know how.
I have a question about that.
So
So, you know,
there is a legislative breakfast
Yeah.
that's gonna be held in Brooklyn. They changed the date.
Yeah, it's on my
Danielle, is it
calendar.
the 17th?
Oh yeah, I didn't see a new date.
I'm looking for the registration link. What date is it?
Not the 17th, that's a Saturday.
No, it wouldn't be that.
Hold on a minute, I'll find it.
Because I'm gonna throw it out there. I've already been making inroads with several of the local Board of Ed chairs in regards to the concerns with the special education formula.
Mm-hmm.
And I have several that are willing to step up and work as a group on that and add that discussion to that as well.
you know, Howie, I
So-
was,
Go
So
ahead.
where state reps tend to go is to this breakfast, January 15th, 7:30 to 9:30 at
Okay.
Brooklyn
Oh,
Middle
I see it,
School.
yep.
Yeah.
We'll be getting a link to register. I will send that out to you, or you can just let us know you can go.
Just so you know.
And we will register you. I always go to those. Sometimes you get several reps from the state and sometimes you get one. But the good news is your professional organization, CAVE, facilitates that discussion, and there's always the board chairs there or some other board members that go to that breakfast. And there's good conversation around the table, and it could spark some ideas about networking. So
Okay, Kristen.
So you know how we wrote the letter and we are always asking people to sign it. Can I just have one copy and get like 4,000 people to sign it and send it to them? Or does it have to be like 4,000 separate?
I don't see
Can
why
I
it
make
couldn't
like a
be.
big petition?
You could just make a
basically?
big petition.
I feel like it would be easier to do that. Like I can
Mhm.
print one in every meeting I go to. Like
Sporting
make
events.
yeah, like have
Mhm.
people sign it versus relying on them all to send their own out.
Yeah.
You do it on a tablet. Can you do it on a tablet where you
We
don't have to
could
cover,
make a
walk around
job
with paper?
form. I can make Jeff make a
Like
job
a
form.
petition.
The issue is gonna be duplicates, right? You're just gonna have to watch out for duplicates.
Right.
Yeah.
Duplicate signatures.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure he can AI something that will say this one's already signed and nix it off the thing.
Yeah, you can make them do.
Because I've seen people standing outside of Market Basket and they assault me. I said,
Yes.
"Oh, I'm not
Yes,
a
they did. I don't
mass
live here."
resident,
Right.
but
Yeah.
and they just have a tablet, I believe. So
Yeah.
I think I'd have better luck
Yep.
getting
Yeah, no, that's a good
people.
Well, to do it that way. Have
I
it
used to do it as a
scary.
list.
Yeah.
Because I've signed them when I was in Mass. Now I decline, but
Yeah.
yeah, we ought to get there. Go ahead. Sorry.
The timing of this supplemental ask
Yeah.
and the timing of the referendum.
Right.
Where are these two gonna land, do you think, in an ideal world?
So we're already in the hole.
Okay,
What we learned along the way, Bill and I, is that, we need to go before and Steve actually guided us, we need to go before the Board of Finance. We realize right now that we are over in special ed expenditures. We also recognize that the other lines in our budget, even if we freeze it, is not gonna cover that amount of money. So we know we're gonna run deficit. So I'll draft a letter to you folks, for your Monday night meeting, but basically saying, I'll throw out an arbitrary number, that we need a supplemental allocation not to exceed 500,000 for, the, overages and special education costs. And we're requesting a supplemental allocation for the FY 26 budget.
right. So if you have that letter to us for next meeting, it will go to Board of Finance by when and how long do they have to react and therefore then,
So they have a meeting next week. I just
Okay.
got an agenda item. I asked Robert to put on the agenda as a placeholder supplemental allocation
I see.
request
okay,
and told him that you would be meeting on the 12th and I would get back to him on the 13th.
okay.
Because we gotta get it out there.
Right, so if they had it by the 13th, is there a legal time frame in which they have to respond and then,
So that's a Steve question.
okay,
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that,
okay.
but
Steve.
Our
Sador,
lawyer-
our attorney.
Oh, the lawyer. Okay.
Not that Steve.
Not that Steve.
Because there would still need to be, it would still end up having to go to the selectmen for a town meeting.
Right, and then they have to post it.
And then
Yeah,
it's usually
that's
2
like
weeks and then it's a
Right.
referendum.
So we're talking at least 4 to
Four.
possibly
Possibly
5-ish
Weeks.
weeks out, so a little bit more
Mid-Feb.
than a month after the 13th, which would get us to mid-February to maybe end of February, which would only be 6 weeks potentially before the real referendum
Mhm.
budget for next year.
the problem
Right.
is, right, and I'm just working here so long, the problem is that, even if it did pass, then the subsequent FY 27 budget is going to be significantly impacted by that,
Right.
not in a good way.
Right.
And then this cycle will keep going.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a cycle. And, yeah.
Justin.
Town's
But-
already over on referendums because we're already
Right.
at 3. So
Yeah.
that
Right.
budget's
Gone.
So,
Unnecessary.
another referendum for another budget, that's another 8,000, plus the actual referendum for this year's budget, that's another 8,000. So I think that we need to make sure that at least one of the upcoming meetings, we have a line to our Board of Education Council for some questions on how we can get the word out legally
Mm-hmm.
and appropriately. How we as a board have to behave and act in this process, right? We found out something recently about what we can and can't say social media wise, some otherwise, like
Oh, you can't.
if we're
Yeah.
going to get down the road of legal action, state, town, whoever, we need to be above board 100%, and we need to make sure our council has our backs on that 100%. And then I think we need to understand before we go down this road of even seriously considering any type of action, we need to consider any repercussions and have that discussion with Steve as a board, in my opinion. Understanding that we've got a $1.6 million increase, $1.9 million increase coming, sorry, couldn't read the number quickly. And a $500,000 supplement that we're asking for. We've got a lot of things that are coming up. I think it's important to make sure that we have counsel at least at the ready for some questions if needed.
Heather?
And to piggyback off that, we've kind of done this twice now with council and asking him, and I don't ever find his answer to be cut and dry. I find it to be kind of wishy-washy gray, and I don't know if if we do have this meeting now for the third time to talk about this same topic, that maybe you both talk
Take
to
a
him
harder
in
line on
advance and tell him that we've now discussed this will be the third time, and we really need legal direct advice as to what is or isn't
The process,
okay.
as far as promoting the vote and that, the process to address overages in the budget, he has been very clear along the way that we have to go and we have to ask for a supplemental. We have to, whether it goes out to vote or however the town responds, if it responds favorably, great. If it does not, then what's the recourse? And he always cites back to the Ellington case, that, they did go through that process of, bringing legal action against the town. I think you're at a breaking point at this point. I have not, I cannot think of any other place that you're gonna see reductions in this year's budget. There's just not, without canceling the programming. Like right now, stop it all. And it's not the right thing for students, for sure.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think we need, like Heather was saying, I think we need some clear direction on social media behavior from board members. How we are directly allowed to interact with the public. Can we sit outside of a basketball game and have a table and say, hey, this is our budget for the next year. This is what's going on. Or, hey, we're asking for this referendum coming up. This is the supplement that we're asking for. This is what it is. I'm not telling you to vote yes, but this is why it's coming out. We need to be able and have some clear direction as to whether or not we can do certain things, because through the years it's been like, well, you can have that table, but the minute you say vote yes,
Right.
You just can
You're
only
going to
say
jail.
facts.
We know
That's
we
it.
can't
So you
say
can
vote
say
yes or
there's
no.
a vote here.
Kathleen, I understand that. What I'm trying to say is we need some clear direction from the attorney. It's not only vote yes, it's what else can't we say?
Yeah.
Or where are our
What are
borders
the
on that?
You
lines
can't
specifically?
imply,
Right.
you
Yeah.
can't, you
We need
can't.
like the dummy version, the like,
Do this, not that. Do this, not that.
Right.
Right.
Like if we were to put a budget pamphlet together, right, on the upcoming referendum, doesn't say vote yes or anything on it, but say we plaster it at every school event, every sporting event, every this, every that, going forward to say, hey, this is what we're looking forward to this year. What is that even legal? Because right, we're not saying vote yes, but we're saying here's the facts of the budget.
Well, you
don't
just
see why
voted to
it's
move
different
that
to do
forward to
this.
the
Yeah.
town, that amount, right?
Yep.
You just voted that. That kind of cuts you off from that because now the budget moves forward. That amount moves forward.
Right.
And so you've already made that decision. There's always that sweet spot, right? That they haven't sent it out for referendum, that I tend to try to use if there's a group.
There's an event
Auditorium
or
thing.
something, yep.
We subtly have put it in some communication around the play. There's always a page in there about voting. We've put an insert in there. I mean, we've been pretty creative
You have?
along the way.
You really have.
But I think that's the question, right? Like what can we regardless of whether or not it was approved by a Board of Ed, not approved, like, we need to be able to talk about the budget year round, 24/7, 365, and what can we say? And we've never gotten really clear direction as to what we can say at school events, where, when, how, and why.
Okay.
You know, can we have,
Jessica, you and I can set a meeting with Steve.
Yeah.
you know what I'm, Jess, am I making sense?
No, you're making sense. I understand where you're coming from on it because there's been a set of rules of which Melinda has had to follow because of previous incidences that have occurred prior
Yep.
where she's been held to a certain standard and we've kind of piggybacked off of that rather than actually digging into to see what are we actually allowed to see and
Yeah.
say
Is
at
there a
specific
gray
events
area?
because she's
Yeah.
not the one saying it, we are. And that's, I think, something that we definitely need to be doing that. And I'd also like to pick Steve's brain a little bit because I have some ideas for the communication subcommittee in regards to potentially doing maybe some sort of meet and greet coffee hour style meetings to let people come and ask the
Yeah.
questions and have those face to face because they may not feel comfortable coming here or on Zoom, but they're more willing to meet two people at wherever.
As long as
Right.
it's not on school
As
grounds.
long as it's not on school grounds, correct?
I think Killingly did something recently, and their selectmen had a
Yes,
meeting.
yeah, they do like a,
Yeah, Woodstock Board of Ed did one. I
Mhm.
screenshotted it like 2 years ago.
yeah,
It was almost like an ask me anything.
Almost.
Here's the budget. Come talk to us. Blah blah blah.
and in
The other
regards to educating residents on how town government works and voting and all of that, I know the 250th is starting a Citizens Academy. I actually have a meeting for that on Friday. So we're going to be doing, it'll be like a 7-week program of actually educating residents on here's how town government works. Here's how you register, like going all the way down to how to register to vote to where your voting precinct is. At least that's the direction I'm pushing it in.
And we
Yeah.
should probably leverage the help of the alumni.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering if, like, again, not saying vote yes, but just simply a date.
Mhm.
If having like a generic yard, like
Yard
sign,
sign.
and literally like 20 of them at each entrance of all of our hills, and it just says referendum vote, and we can handwrite the new, so it can be reusable. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And just say, and put them out like 2 weeks in advance. You know what I mean? And just have them littered up and down the side, side of the thing, so that the parents literally at all of their parent drop-off sporting events
Can't say you didn't
see it. They didn't. How can you say you didn't know?
But the town could certainly do that.
Right. I'm
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
I'm just
yep.
saying, like
It's their
on
budget,
school
too.
property, just posting the date, simply the date.
Yep.
And a reusable generic sign that can be reused and updated every single time.
Two things. This town level voting is our most fundamental form of the democracy that we have in this country.
Mhm.
And lots of places don't have this level of town
I don't have it.
government. So this is it. I mean, if you can't say you want to live here and not participate. And also our taxes, for as much grumbling as people had over the reevaluation and our taxes are still some of the lowest around. And that's because people keep saying no. And yes, until at some point the building's going to crumble, and yeah, it's but we have to pay for things, and done. It's only January.
Yep. It's only January. Any further discussion on the budget?
I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So we will be holding the 21st.
Yeah, we
And
still.
so you don't need me to bring forward, I'll put it in my grease of what I was thinking about, just in case.
Mhm.
Don't cut anything else.
Right.
We don't. We can't.
Yeah.
I mean, we
But when
can
they tell
have
us to, we'll have it
those.
ready.
Right. We could still have her. Yep. Provide that information, but it's not anything we need to take action on
Okay.
necessarily right now.
Mhm.
Okay. Mr. Stecklitz.
Just a reminder, the 21st is a joint meeting with the Board of Finance.
Correct.
It's a good thing.
Huzzah.
Mhm.
Perfect.
All right, if we're done with discussion, citizens' comments.
It's a Wednesday.
Nothing online? In the room, Mr. Herbert.
Sorry, Steve.
Afraid the headline was mentioned, it's going to be, after a whopping 75 minutes, the board decided on the school budget of $23 million of my tax money.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be a good headline. We are approaching a different budget season. We don't have the reval of the vehicles. We don't have the reval of the real property. So those things that have really made things difficult this past year are not there, but there's a big increase here. I'm afraid that the comments are based on this. We're paying the board of too much money, obviously, if it only takes 75 minutes to do this job. Cut your guys out.
Zero.
I want to raise.
A little concerned about, I appreciate the frustration, but if the thought is cut the budget, I'm very concerned. And I'm afraid that's the headline. I'm afraid that's what's going to be in the shopper's guide. Our board of ed only took 75 minutes to figure out next year's $23 million, 10% increased budget, 9% increased budget. And I don't think that's going to go across very well.
No, totally respect that.
It would be nice if we had a citizen in the room or on Zoom to have comments, besides you, Steve, too.
I'm sorry.
I said it'd be nice if we had a few more citizens on Zoom or in the room to provide us some more feedback to help us make decision.
I think the communication is, I mentioned several times, is the big issue. And I know everybody's tried. I wish there wasn't, I wish I could think of some way, or anybody could think of some way to make that communication, if you need to get out and vote and support your kids' education. Wish you the best of luck. One final thing on suing the state. Come on.
It's not.
Yeah.
Unless we're being treated differently than other parts of the streets. Right. But let's not waste our time or money.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Kristen's got it. Justin has the second.
But it is a big baseball bat.
You can tell Steve I said
When you take a swing like that,
Bring it.
somebody's position.
I'm hoping this at least gets the
Maybe
attention
that's
on
what
us for the next
Justin's
3 months.
focused on.
Oh, it already has, Justin. It already has.
I'm not gonna sit, as much as I love sitting here every Monday with you guys, just us.
We're gonna be needed no matter what.
Yeah.
Regardless.
It's already there.
I was not trying to get rid of the sitting here every Monday. I'm trying to
Right.
get more people in the room.
Yeah.
Well, we will be here almost every Monday because we still have to do the presentation and we still have to review it. And
I think it's more about getting
So
people
Heather,
fired
are
up.
you communication?
Come out. Come
So
get
I think I'll
fired up.
get my name on that list.
Yeah, tell
So-
Jess, 'cause
Tell
we're
Jess.
looking for two